wonderful time, Stinky, I have to say. We had so much fun, didn't we? Oh, it's the Poppets. Hello, my little Poppets, and welcome to story time once again. Well, Stinky and I have had a very busy afternoon and we're feeling, rather tired, I have to say. We've spent the afternoon looking for mushrooms because I love mushrooms and I particularly like mushroom pie, and also you can have them in salads and things like that, and they are quite delicious. So we've spent the afternoon looking for mushrooms and we did find quite a few, but we also found a rather large mushroom. Well, actually it's not a mushroom, I do believe it's a toadstool, but the reason we've picked it is because it's such a big one. I've never seen one quite as large as this one, so we thought that you'd like to see it at home. And there it is there, a very large toadstool indeed. A lovely bright red with lots of spots on top. Now what's that, Stinky? Can we eat it? No, I'm afraid we can't eat it, dear, because some mushrooms, as you know, and particularly toadstools, are quite poisonous. I don't know if you know that, my little Poppets, but if you're ever out in the garden or you're outside and you come across a toadstool or a mushroom, it's probably best not to touch it, and definitely don't eat it, because you have to know which ones are okay, safe to eat, and which ones aren't. But we did pick this one because it was such a great big one, but we're not going to eat it. We just picked this one because it's so large. I think it's the biggest toadstool I've ever seen. Well, Stinky, what else did we find when we were out looking for mushrooms, dear? We found a nest. Yes, we did. My dear Poppets, we also found another wonderful little treasure. We found a nest when we were out looking for mushrooms. Now this nest doesn't have any eggs and there weren't any birds near this nest. I think this nest was built a long time ago and it was abandoned. So it's okay that we have this nest here. There's no eggs in that one, but it's a very, very pretty nest. It's amazing the things that you find when you're outside, Stinky, isn't it? Yes, it certainly is. Well, Stinky, I suppose we should mention the Storytime cake, dear. We've got a wonderful Storytime cake here, which will show the Poppets, with a rather funny fellow on top with very messy hair. And I have to say, his hair does look rather a lot like a nest, doesn't it? He's got this big, bushy, wiry hair that looks very sort of nest-like. Yes, he's a very strange looking fellow, that one. And also, my dear Poppets, speaking of today's story, it is called The Man with the Messy Hair. And thank you, Stinky dear, the man with the messy hair. Well, Stinky, I think you should get comfy, dear, because you must be very tired. We did spend a long time looking for mushrooms, didn't we? Yes, so you can have a nice rest and get comfy, and we'll crack on with today's story, all right then? Yes, good boy. Oh, so much fun looking for mushrooms, and I have to say I'm looking forward to having some mushroom pie a little bit later on. And this is called The Man with the Messy Hair. And here we go, my dear Poppets. There was a man with messy hair. He liked the mess. He didn't care. And there's the man there, tucked up in bed, and the only thing you can see is his messy hair sticking out of the blankets there. Yes, very messy hair indeed. He didn't wash or brush his hair. He liked the mess he had up there. The trouble was he couldn't see. Where are my shoes? Where can they be? Well, there he is there, crawling around on the floor there, looking for his shoes. Yes, and he can't find them because of his messy hair. Yes, a terrible mess. Each day he walks to work. In his case he takes some money, and for his lunch some bread and honey. If anyone sees him they shout and they stare. There goes the man with the messy hair. And it says, messy hair, messy, messy hair. Well, this man has a bit of a reputation. Everyone knows when he is coming because of his messy hair. Yes, it certainly is a mess. One day he banged into a tree, all because he couldn't see. Another day he tripped and fell. I know because I heard him yell. And there he is there, and he's tripped over and he's had an accident there, and all because of his silly messy hair. Yes, he can't see where he's going. Silly fellow. He eats his lunch at 1:30, then falls asleep in the sun. Well, there he is there, the man with the messy hair, and it looks like he's had a sandwich for lunch, and now he's fallen asleep, having a doze in the sun. Sometimes it's nice to have a doze in the sun. While he was sleeping there one day, a bird flew down. She'd seen the top of his messy crown, so she laid her egg on top of his head. When he woke, he found the egg. He danced and he pranced and he capered about. "Where did this come from?" he shouted out. He almost broke the egg, and then, well, there he is there, and he's woken up. He's had a nasty surprise there with a rather large bird on the top of his head that has laid an egg. And I think that would give you a fright if you fell asleep and all of a sudden you had a rather large bird sitting on the top of your head and it laid an egg. "I must keep it safe," he said. "I must stand up straight and tall, otherwise the egg will fall." So the man with the messy hair walked off home with his head in the air. The people who saw him pointed and said, "Look, there goes a man with an egg on his head. Look, 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 it's an egg," they're all shouting. And there he is, walking proudly along with a very large white egg on top of his messy hair there, on the top of his head. And he doesn't seem bothered by the egg at all. That night in his bed, he slept with the egg. Now he cannot bend at all. If he does, the egg will fall. Well, now not only does he have to worry about not being able to see, now he has to worry about the egg falling off his head and breaking. So he's got to be very careful. He doesn't want the egg to break. Before he left for work next day, he tied a ribbon around the egg to keep it safe up upon his head. As he went, he heard them say, "Look at that man, whatever is that? Why can't you see it's a fanciful hat?" Yes, they think it's a fancy hat on top of the man's head. Look at that. They think it's a very fancy hat, and it says, "Look, what's that? What's that?" They're all shouting about the egg on his head. He still eats his lunch at 1:30 and goes to sleep out in the sun. One day a noise while he was sleeping woke him up. What's that squeaking?" he thinks to himself. Do you know what that squeaking is, my dear poppets? Have a look there. What can you see? What's that? You can see the egg hatching. You're right. Yes, the egg is starting to hatch. And there's a chick poking out and it's saying cheep, 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 hatching out of the egg. The noise that he'd heard was the sound of a bird. Cheep, 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 cheep. What does it want? Something to eat? He fed it worms and bits of bread. Well, it sat there on his head. Oh, it sat there on his head while he fed it worms and bits of bread. What a funny fellow this man is with the messy hair. He likes having the bird up there. Yes, a funny fellow indeed. Then his mother came one day. That was when it flew away. And there he is there, and the bird is flying away. There it goes, flying up into the sky with another bird, with its mother, I think. Next morning he washed and brushed his hair. He pulled it up and tied it there. Yes, well, it's about time, my dear poppets. He's washed and brushed his hair and he's decided to tie it up. Now maybe the man with the messy hair will be able to see. Then walked to work with his bread and honey. He didn't forget to take his money. It's a wonderful world, you will agree, when your hair's tied up and you can see. Now as he passes, the people say, "Good morning, sir." And there they are, they're all saying good morning as he heads off to work. Perhaps it's because now he can see. "Have a great day," they say. Yes, have a great day. And there's the bird that hatched upon his head, flying away there. Well, and that was called The Man with the Messy Hair. What an interesting one, I have to say. Well, I'm glad that I wash and brush my hair, my dear poppets, because I wouldn't like to have, imagine that, if I take the hat off and I had a nest up there upon my head. Oh yes, imagine that, a nest there on your hair. Oh, I better not leave it there. A bird might come and lay an egg in the nest, I don't know. Yes, what a funny book that one was, but a cracker, I have to say. Well, Stinky, my pet, I better find, the elastic on my hat. I'll tuck that in there. Yes, I feel quite strange, my poppets, when I don't wear my hat. Stinky, my friend, did you enjoy that book, dear? You did? Oh, well, that's wonderful. I'm glad you enjoyed that book. What's that? You don't want to have messy fur? No, well, Stinky, you don't have to worry about having messy fur, dear, because you had a fur cut the other week. We gave you a nice fur cut. You're all lovely and trimmed, and you wash your fur regularly, so you don't have to worry about birds using your fur as a nest, do you? No, you don't. Well, my dear poppets, thank you for tuning in for story time. I hope you enjoyed that book, The Man with the Messy Hair. Perhaps you could read a book about a man with messy hair, or perhaps you could make a story time cake with a man on top with messy hair. As always, my dear ones, thank you for watching, and until next time, bye!